Bum 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 Iran. Bum 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 Iran. Bum 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 Iran. Bum 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 Iran. What country's got a feeling really hit the ceiling? Bum Iran. Bum 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 Iran.
So there is and please, the goal of this was mostly to get kind of the media narrative, because I think this is an important thing to talk about, like what you do a lot and what I try to do a lot, especially with like my troops, or my old troops, I used to say. So what from your experience, I think it's the most important thing is, do you think like the perception is for the current invasion of Iran, or I guess the attacks on Iran?
So, when you say like the justification or just the perception, what do you mean by
The
that?
perception, like we talk about things online, like I know a lot of MAGA media, apparently like Matt Walsh is very upset about this particular attack.
I am quite skeptical of this operation, as I am usually skeptical of military interventions in far-off countries on the other side of the globe.
What do you think like the mainstream average American public would think about it?
The average American. Also, I don't really know. I guess I don't have a good grasp on the zeitgeist. But also, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Am I even using the right mic? I am. Okay, cool. Sorry, sometimes it resets. Basically, my understanding is that like people are pretty jaded from the Iraq War, where they said there were WMDs, which is on paper a very good reason to stop a country that seems to be willing to use them against other countries, but was just completely fabricated. Like, and like the more we find out about this, 20 years later, and you read like, oh yeah, like they literally told them to make stuff up so that we would have justification. And so we have a very similar looking war here, with similar pretenses, with the pretense being they're a week away from nuclear materials, and they've been saying this for decades. It just doesn't seem to be particularly salient to the average American, or at least to me. And what's weird is that obviously MAGA was the no new wars, like war is bad party, which, I think, as stupid as they are, is at least a slogan we can all get behind.
Candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that. I am peace.
But now, as soon as he goes and starts a couple new wars, everyone's like, "Ah, well, this is good because Iran is evil." And it's hard to look at this and say anything but Iran is evil. Is true. I mean, so far as like, how do you pronounce his name? Sorry, Kalamani, or
I'm not even going to try to
Kamani?
pretend I know how to pronounce his name. But yeah,
Yeah.
the former Iranian leader.
The former Ayatollah was, not a good person. He was killing a lot of civilians, and there's so many problems with him. But then to say that a unilateral war without congressional approval and is somehow justified. Well, no, I mean, like, it seems like even Congress maybe would have been on board if you could have given them a good justification. And I don't know if we really have one, because you can go and say it's because of humanitarian reasons, and it's like, okay, but then why aren't we doing this anywhere else? And it's very clearly not just because of humanitarian reasons. So yeah, I'm very confused. I'm still not quite sure why we're there. And I don't know, maybe you know more than me, but it's shitty that we're putting our civilians at risk, and potentially causing a lot of, or not civilians, our military at risk, and causing a lot of collateral damage. And yeah, tell me, why are we doing this? What's going on?
Well, same reason. Long story short, same reason we were in Iraq. The oil.
Oil.
It's always about the freaking oil and what makes the most money. It's the reason we went to Venezuela last early part of this year.
So we didn't actually get the oil in Iraq, right? Like, am I mistaken?
Yes and no. It's not necessarily, when we say like getting the oil, it's more so securing the ability for us to conduct trade with Iraq or Iraqi companies and setting up infrastructure to do that. So like we still take some of Iraq's oil in the form of like corporations over there sell it to us. Previously, before the invasion, that wouldn't have happened. Do you remember the first Gulf War in the 90s under Papa Bush?
Do I remember? I know of it. I wasn't alive.
I forget how old you are, man. The hat sets me off. The first Iraq war was done because there was, yes, the humanitarian reason was because Iraq invaded Kuwait. And the United States, along with other allies such as Saudi Arabia and even France, engaged in a very large offensive to free Kuwait from Iraq because of Kuwait's access to oil.
It's raining oil, fella.
Obviously, Kuwait's a smaller country down there, but they do have a lot of access to oil and the ability to ship it through the area there, that Strait of Hormuz. Probably pronounced it wrong. Yeah. So it is, again, it's to re-emphasize the oil infrastructure that comes from the Middle East and boils down to it. Trump's big takeaway from in 2016 during the election was the fact that, we should have taken the oil, as in literally gone and extracted all of it and then sold it purely for the exploitation of America.
I remember that video where he had that series of rants in his office, the same one he did the taco bowl picture, and he's like, "We should have taken the oil. We should have
We should have kept the oil in Iraq.
Or the president is weak. He's going to start a war with Iran, and that's what he's doing right now.
It's crazy how much that keeps coming back up.
Yeah, there's a Trump video or a Trump tweet for like literally everything he's ever done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then if I'm understanding correctly, and I'll take your word on it as an uneducated man, that we went to Iraq, we didn't really take the oil insofar as our government seized them, but we did allow some sort of contracting through third parties, and we benefit from this to an extent. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, that's the idea. Okay. That's the sentiment to it. There's a lot of different reasons. George W. Bush Jr. used to say is that the axis of evil was Iran, Iraq, and North Korea. And obviously going into Iraq helps to secure U.S. interest against Iran in future conflicts. It helps to secure U.S. interest against, although I don't think Syria was too much of a topic of conversation in the early 2000s, secure conflict against them. It helps our allies, I say allies because I'd rather they not be allies, but countries like Saudi Arabia, helps secure the infrastructure around them and to allow them to essentially assert dominance elsewhere. The problem,
another ignorant question,
go ahead.
Though, because he says, the axis of evil. Like, Iran and Iraq go to war semi-frequently, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's actually...
so calling them the axis is a little silly, especially including North Korea, which is... I don't think any has really many direct connections with that, or really anyone other than China.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
They don't.
Okay.
It wasn't so much these countries all working together against the United States. It's more so that these countries represent, in his opinion, fundamentally evil countries. I'm going to say corporation. Evil countries that are fundamentally against quote-unquote American interest. Funny you mention that. Yes, Iraq and Iran actually did go to war prior to the first Gulf War under H.W. Bush. So one of the reasons that the U.S. I'm gonna use the professional term of kicked ass militarily in that first war was because the Iraqi military was very much set up to fight a war as they did against Iran. So they had trenches dug in, they had infrastructure built in for a large ground offenses, kind of like how you've seen Ukraine against Russia right now, where the war was very World War I style because they weren't able to secure or have a large Air Force infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. And then we flew all our planes over their silly little trenches, and they were like, "Whoa!
Oh no, it was
you could do that."
It
was a very World War II blitzkrieg, fly over the Maginot Line moment, right?
It was because prior to that there had obviously been U.S. military operations, but there hadn't been a large movement of ground forces since Vietnam, and the first Gulf War kind of re-emphasized that the U.S. military actually still knew what it was doing after the whole Vietnam failure. Because Iraq actually had at the time the largest, if not one of the largest, militaries in the world in terms of like ground force. Please double check me and fact check me if I'm wrong, because I'm doing all this off the top of my head. I did not look this portion up as much. So that's one of the reasons that we gathered such a large multinational coalition to go against Iraq to defend Kuwait, which was because it had such a large standing army. It's also kind of one of those. It was actually
over 1 million people in that for during the first Gulf War. That's a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
I would not have guessed it was that large.
It was
the fourth largest military in the world prior to the first Gulf War.
Yeah. the Saddam Hussein was leader of Iraq prior to his removal via extrajudicial means. He had got a large conscription-based military in order to fight the war with Iran and to invade Kuwait. He really did kind of bet on the U.S. not intervening, or the world just kind of going like, "Yeah, whatever, we don't care." But obviously, because Kuwait was so important to like oil shipping lanes, as we see right now with the current Iran invasion, that was not the case. The fun story: the military operation was so successful that they had actually slowed down because they couldn't process the POWs fast enough to keep up with their planned line.
Wow.
Oh yeah. But anyway, back to modern day Iran, which has a lot of similarities with not only the first Iraq War, but the second Iraq War especially, just as you were saying, a lot of the narrative has been. So the quick history about it, because I think it's important to know about this, a lot of conservatives have seemed to be ignoring the reason that we are in this current state of government with Iran. I see a lot of online, or even in like major news sources, they will say that, oh, Iran just hates us. They hate our way of life, and that's justification enough to just bomb the hell out of them. Obviously, I don't think that's the reason you think it, but it's important to point that out. But
to be clear, they do hate us, right?
Oh, yeah.
And like the Ayatollah was frequently quoted as saying like, I wish to death to America. Let's wipe them off the face of the earth, right?
Oh yeah, like they do hate us.
That's not a reason to invade a country, but
Yeah.
that's not technically wrong.
No, they do hate us.
Okay.
That's definitely not I mean, North Korea hates us, but we don't go and invade North Korea or threaten them constantly with missiles because of a lot of different reasons.
They have nukes.
Don't spoil it now. I'm going to get to my next point. Obviously, Iran after World War II was a kind of a British territory and occupation. The U.S. Took a lot of the world policing aspect from the U.K. after World War II, and it was MI6 and the CIA that overthrew the democratically elected leadership in '53 because they were trying to nationalize the oil products, right? I'm sure you may have heard of this, the banana republics.
And we installed the Shah, right?
Yeah. And then I've done a little bit more research, just so I was better educated on this right now. But the current government came to power in '79 during the Carter administration. Part of the reason that he lost his reelection and created the current form of government that we have. There's a lot of different back and forth regarding the '79 revolution. I would say it's accurate to say the country was probably better off under the Shah, even though it was anti-democratic, than it is currently under this government.
Right, you see all the Reddit posts, right, where you see a woman who's not in a hijab and you're like, or a burqa, and it's like, this is Iran pre-revolution.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, sure, the method by which this person was installed was undemocratic. It was a coup, but that person, once they were installed, probably granted more individual freedoms than the current administration since the 80s. Yeah,
definitely the current one. I do think it's important to note that we get this idea of propaganda in regards to like just seeing images. It was a lot more complicated than like the Reddit posts make it seem. Because
I think there are two states: bikini girls, not bikini girls, and one of them is good and one of them is bad, and that's my understanding of government.
Hey, you know what? We support our California loving over here. I got the Katy Perry song stuck in my head now. So This is the thing that that we need to most discuss, because this is the part where a lot of the narrative that the Trump administration has put out is complete bullshit. So, and I also want to talk about, if I could spoil myself a little bit on my own PowerPoint, there has been, I'm going to defend, I hate doing this, but I'm going to defend Trump a little bit on certain aspects of it. Because I think, from my point of view, I have a bit more of a complicated personal opinion about foreign policy. I wasn't 100% convinced on like Bernie Sanders, for example, because I did not know how he was going to be regarding foreign policy. He's also, or how he was going to be as a commander-in-chief aspect. I still voted for him in the primaries, but I wasn't fully convinced about how he would be, and I preferred somebody like Biden over him.
Yeah, for foreign policy, Bernie was a little iffy and kind of pushes these weird isolationist stances sometimes in ways that I'm not sure I fully agree. Like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like he would be someone who'd be more ready to say we don't need to be involved in other countries' wars, or we don't need to be involved in, like, why don't we focus on ourselves? And while I do think we should focus on ourselves, that is not to say that we don't have the immense wealth and power that we can use to aid in other places. Like, I'm curious what Bernie Sanders would have said about the Kosovo conflict, for example. I know he was in Congress at the time, so I could go look it up. But yeah,
I am once again asking
not to get involved in another forever war in the Middle East.
I get that sort of hesitancy for sure. And as the commander in chief, I don't know. Just imagine Bernie Sanders like executing the Bin Laden raid or something. Like, it doesn't seem like it's something he would be good at, even though I'm sure he would have been fine. Like, oh my God, we're going in. Oh, this is scary. I'm scared. I don't know if I like this.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So,
and it's mostly probably a PR thing where he doesn't exude that kind of like traditional masculine strength you would expect from like a commander in chief, right? Not a reason to vote against him, in my opinion, but I get the sentimentality. But something that Trump has sort of done that I think that the majority of maybe online liberals might not fully understand or really grasp is that I would support. Are you seen the military actions in Mexico against the cartels down there?
I have. Oh, and real quick fact check. Bernie Sanders did support Kosovo.
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah, military action cartel though.
Yeah. So I have for a long time kind of supported the idea of using direct military action in Mexico and other South American states against the cartel. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The issue is that the way that Trump and some Republicans have proposed it is asinine, to say the least, because they just want to go in, put boots on the ground, and take over the country, which is insane. That's an invasion. That's a war, and you want to do that in Mexico. Not going to be good. So doing it with the Mexican government, as Trump actually ended up doing in this latest attack by them, which it was led by the Mexican military, isn't a bad thing on the surface.
Yeah.
Now, this is also very progressive when it comes to like the war on drugs. I think it's been a complete failure and a waste of money, and it would be more beneficial. But as a pure apolitical thing, military action against cartels wouldn't be the worst thing because they are horrible. Especially, I'm sure you've seen how they acted in Mexico.
Yeah.
Now, the Venezuela thing, the boats he's been doing, not at all support. Just to make that clear. So when I say like defending some of Trump's actions, there are certain instances where it makes sense where certain things might have happened. I told a lot of family that during his first term, during 2020, when there was escalations with the U.S. and Iran, I actually had some of my mind change because I spoke to some Iranian nationals after the fact. Basically, in January 2020, the U.S. bombed a Iranian general, and Iran was escalating.
Soleimani, right?
Yeah. And I'm awful with names, so I can never remember them off the top of my head. But a lot of my family was like, hey, you need to get out of the military this year. You can't, re-enlist. And I told them, like, look, if we go to war with Iran, I'm not going to just run away because of that. Like, I hate Trump. I think he's awful. But this is not necessarily a completely, whoopsie-daisy, could have avoided it sort of conflict.
Yeah.
That being said, he has somehow, to borrow some French phrases, bumfucked us into a conflict that now is entirely his freaking fault, his and Israel's. So to explain that portion, I'm going to go over some of the main aspects and why the media especially does a disservice to us whenever we're listening to this. So Iran has, dating back to when they were a stronger U.S. ally under the Shah, some military some military equipment that the U.S. actually gave them, namely the F-14s, which were the fighter jets I'm sure you may have seen once or twice, like during Top Gun.
I was going to say, it says right here, it's severely outdated and zero impact. Tom Cruise is able to take out quite a few Gen 5 fighters with his F-14 Tomcat.
Those were Russian
so I don't
Gen
know.
5 fighters.
As long as they have good pilots in there.
Oh, Lord. I love that. That movie was way too good. Had no right to be that good. Yeah.
Do you like this is a slight tangent, but this trend of legacy sequels where the old boomer comes back to train the new people. Top Gun Maverick, I think F1 kind of did this, or maybe it was Gran Turismo. I think it was F1. But rather than like the natural state of things, which is the boomer hands the reins off to the new guy and the new guy finishes the job, the boomer goes, you know what? Actually, you're not good enough. I have to solve the problem. And they end up saving the day.
No, because the Independence Day sequel sucked so much, and I will always hate it. Because that was one of my favorite movies of all time, and they completely ruined my favorite movie president. But
You mean when they made Bill Pullman like a dementia-ridden, like feeble geriatric, and you think he's going to give a big speech like in the first one? He's just like,
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
and you're like, wow, this sucks.
absolutely, oh man, I'll never forgive Hollywood for that. Oh. But honestly, when Tom Cruise comes in and saves the day, I'm like, you know what? I'll give it to him. Tommy earned this one. We'll let him have it.
Oh yeah, it's a pet peeve. I still enjoyed the movie, but my god, boomers need to get over themselves.
But unlike Top Gun, the F-14 probably not as effective today as it was back then. There were a lot of, especially around the early 2000s, war games done with possible escalation with Iran. Excuse me. And I'm going to jump ahead. I accidentally put it out of order. But this general here is a guy named General Ripper. One of the concerns.
That's real.
Oh yeah, real dude. You can Google him on Wikipedia.
It's not Riper. That sounds like something out of like a fake, military game.
It might be Riper. I'm not certain, but I haven't actually heard his name pronounced. I've only read it. I'm going to go with Ripper because it sounds more badass.
That
Anyway,
does sound more badass.
back in 2002, there was a war game put on between the U.S. and Iran, right? And there is this depiction in the media that the U.S. military is severely, and Republicans are the worst at this. Every time a Democrat's in office, they keep reassuring that the military is being dismantled by liberal leftist propaganda, by those DEI initiatives, those diversity hires, and all that. And it's not true.
Bullshit.
It's horseshit.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, you're in the military, so you can speak to this better than I can. But like, how many dipshit non-DEI people do you know, like
So
in the military,
fucking much.
that are like, look, there's a reason why you don't have to. There's a reason why you can take the entrance exam and be too smart, and they don't let you in. And
I've never seen
you know,
that.
like. I've heard a couple people who've taken it and they're like, yeah, we wouldn't put you into like, the army or whatever. Like we want you in like this sort of field, like a more specialized field. And my point is just like, look, all you got to do is pull the trigger and know when to like, aim and shoot and follow orders. Like that's kind of what the military is. So the idea that like, oh yeah, before we were a bunch of white dipshits, but now we've got trans and they, them, and black dipshits. Like, oh, the military's going to hell. It's like, hey, they can all pull the trigger. It's fine.
The issue, I'm gonna disagree with you slightly because my
that I called everyone in the military a dipshit.
No, we're dipshits at
Including
time.
you.
We're dipshits at time, man. I'm not gonna I was in one of the lowest. It's called the ASVAB. The thing you mispronounced in your Kyle Rittenhouse video.
But I speculate that it's because he failed his ASVAB, aka the easiest test in the world.
Shit. Sorry.
I was like, oh man, should I message him? It's been a couple months, but
You did. I remember. I was like, damn. Now I look stupid, but
so
I'm sorry. I'm just too educated to know how to pronounce the silly thing.
the ASVAB is the aptitude test. That's the one where it's the what do you need to do for certain jobs in the military, right? The job that I worked in the military, which was military police, lowest score in ASVAB you needed in the Air Force. And they even would give people a waiver and they'd let us go do that job. So if you were too dumb for being a fighter pilot or something, you'd go be in my job. So I dealt with, and it wasn't just because of the people in my career field, but also those who worked other jobs that just did stupid things. I'd have to go work or say, hey, buddy, you're going to jail now. Some of the dumbest freaking people in the military. I have seen those people be from all walks of life, and I have seen people who are quote-unquote diversity hires or minorities or women, God forbid, be extraordinarily capable compared to some of the other people. I will say there is a bit of a culture. It's a complicated issue, but and I don't want to get too much on that because I got other things to talk about here. But having served for 10 years, from Trump's first administration to the last year of Obama, to the entirety of Biden, to the current Trump administration, their narrative is bullshit. The quote-unquote changes that they've made are surface level at most and purely for talking points on Twitter.
Yeah, to be like, oh, we've expanded the diversity of the military, and we've included so many more demographics, the best of America, and it's like, okay, did this really do anything? Like, does it really matter?
The issue is that the people in the military who think that, oh, this is an easy job, I just need to go and be a point and shoot, are, in my opinion, some of the worst goddamn fucking troops I ever had. Like It's one, like, the issue is that people go in and expect, like, oh, I'll just be told what to do constantly and have someone hold my hand, where I understand you're 18, mama wiped your ass until you were, shipped out the door to boot camp. But at a certain point, you have to be able to think for yourself and come up with problem solutions. It's one of the reasons that I think our military does so well is that we promote people who are able to do solution-oriented thinking and not having to wait on somebody to come in and just hold their hand to go fix something entirely. And that they do actually a good job at training people for those particular positions.
Right.
Lots of issues, not perfect, but overall not like the worst force in the world. Or not the worst organization.
If anything, we're the best force in the world now.
Oh, yeah. So back during 2002, there was a lot of talk online. Is basically what happened was this general went in as the opposing force in the simulated war game against Iran and absolutely creamed the American force. The simulated casualties were in the thousands. We lost an aircraft carrier in this exercise, which we have not lost an aircraft carrier in combat since World War II. So in this potential conflict with Iran, absolutely worse than what we're seeing right now. This is kind of one of those things you may see online with some people talk about, because this is, especially in the military community, a lot of people will bring this exercise up as a fundamental wake-up call that we need to look at how we're dealing with not only wars, but war games. Because after the loss of the American forces in this exercise, they restarted the whole exercise and basically said, hey, you can't do all those things that you did to kick our ass. Which basically used a lot of...
Like we legislated something, or what do you mean we said that they couldn't do them?
Basically, so what he did was he used a lot of non-conventional tactics, like he used lights for signals and intelligence gathering. He used runners who would use motorcycles to send messages to different areas, and then a bunch of suicide boats to take out the naval assets in this simulated scenario. Huh. And
Wait, suicide boats are like effective?
Somewhat, depending on the circumstances, they can be. If you look at the war in Ukraine, you've seen that they have used not suicide boats, but drone boats to take down several Russian ships. Those are fairly effective, albeit I'll say probably more effective against a 2002 U.S. naval group than they are against the modern-day U.S. naval group.
Yeah, because I see here it says like the technology gap is widened to the point where like citing a 2002 war games for a 2026 conflict is just almost completely irrelevant.
Not completely irrelevant. It's never completely irrelevant, but it's important to understand that there is a technology gap that we have seen widen since this exercise happened. Not irrelevant. It's never irrelevant because you can learn something even from like the stupidest of things, even if it's not to do that. But the way people would talk about this is that this would lead to one of the worst casualties the U.S. has faced since World War II. That is what Trump and the current administration are kind of trying to avoid. Because if you look right now, there has been a very fundamental... Let's see if I can go down one. Okay, that's too far. There's been a fundamental lack of ground mobilization. So in both wars, Iraq 1 and Iraq 2, and Afghanistan, what you saw on the ground was a mass troop mobilization, which included tanks, Bradleys, which are infantry fighting vehicles, and other ground type operations. You have not seen that. But so they're in Iraq, and the first both wars, a lot of forces came into our allies around the Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait itself, and launched ground invasions there. You can actually watch, if you look up, there's a good website if you ever want to look up information on this called the Institute for the Study of War. They provide a lot of documentation for all modern conflicts going on. And if you ever jump into the military aspect of YouTube, they use this site a lot too. You saw tank formations and different other ground movements in Iraq during that time. None of that has happened now. We saw that not only was there in this current conflict only mobilization of naval and air force assets, this was always going to happen. The second Trump said, "Oh, we're meeting in Geneva to have a conversation about how to de-escalate," yeah, that was always horseshit. And the reason it was horseshit is because you don't move two naval aircraft groups to de-escalate a conversation. Do you? Just out of curiosity, do you know how the largest air forces in the world are?
How they are?
Like which ones they are? Excuse me, I should say. Like who do you think has the largest
no.
air force?
I would assume it would be us, and then what? Don't tell me. I don't know. China. I know China and us would be the two biggest navies, so I would assume it would be the same for the Air Force. But tell me I'm wrong now.
So you're not wrong. But the largest air force in the world is the United States Air Force, and the second largest is the U.S. Navy.
Oh yes, I forgot about this.
So a single carrier arguably has enough air assets, like planes and shit, to rival most countries. There's a reason, like, we have about the entire U.S. naval fleet, and again, I'm an Air Force guy, so my knowledge on the Navy is a little hearsay, but the largest, most U.S. naval fleets, the entire group is based around the aircraft carrier. Until Trump built his battleship. I don't know if you saw that shit, but God, that pisses me off.
So the Trump class or whatever they're called?
Oh, I hate that so much. Yeah.
Are they going to paint them gold?
Lord, I have never been more triggered over this. Anyway, so a single U.S. aircraft carrier group probably would have been good enough to put Iran on notice, but we didn't just do that. We moved, we put two. One of which was responsible for the attack in Venezuela that we launched. That entire group was moved over to the Middle East, and this is all public information, by the way. I'm not giving no classified stuff.
Yeah.
The Pentagon has put all of this on Twitter. But we also moved a lot of U.S. Air Force assets. This one we had not just the planes, which will move quite a bit, but what happens is we move the maintenance personnel as well. So the people that would arm the planes with bombs and would fix the planes in the event of any type of damage or equipment failure, were getting moved en masse. Even while Trump was doing his State of the Union saying, "Oh, we need to figure out." Now, he was always going to do this. And this is the part of the narrative that anybody who is actually paying attention would be able to see through immediately. Because he's not going to Geneva in good faith. It seems like they were always planning on escalating to this point, especially with the conversations that they've had with Israel, which we can get to. Israel has always wanted to do this. Netanyahu has always wanted to do this. And as you said, they've been arguing that since forever. Iran is 2 weeks away from getting a nuclear bomb. If you've seen any of the media reporting, the Department of Defense, any intelligence gathering has basically denied that is capable. It is exactly what they did in Iraq, which was blame weapons of mass destruction. It's like, we got to stop them from getting the bomb. I'm going to be honest, I have a bit of a controversial take on this. I haven't seen this repeated anywhere. Literally, the only reason Iran cannot be given or get access to nuclear weapons is not because they're going to just send a missile to the United States and destroy us, because they could North Korea could do that, and we don't see saber rattling about North Korea constantly. It is purely because Israel likes to operate completely independently in the Middle East. And if Iran has nuclear weapons, suddenly there is a check because Israel has nuclear weapons that they never acknowledge and that they are ambiguous about.
Yeah.
So, you see throughout history, especially with military conflicts, there is nuclear weapons provide a very good de-escalation in a toxic, tipsy-turvy kind of way. So like India and Pakistan would constantly have border disputes and fights across the border. And while they haven't gone away, the escalation to full-out war has been lessened because both countries are now like, well, if we push too far, we'll get nuked. And Israel knows is that their ability to dominate the Middle East is going to be challenged if Iran happens to get nuclear weapons. I don't buy in. I've never bought into the fear-mongering that Iran suddenly having nuclear weapons is going to fundamentally change the United States' defense posture. It is clearly them trying to sell a narrative because...
Yeah, the idea that like the instant it becomes live, they would just fire it immediately at Israel seems a little silly. Because like the like what is the incentive there? Like, yeah, sure, there are Islamists who are in the so-called death cult mentality who will suicide bomb, but the entire country and the leadership of Iran is not. I don't think that insane.
No.
So
Just want to watch the world burn.
No, they're even Russia right now, which has had a bit of a suicide cult in certain aspects of the government, is not that insane.
yeah.
Iran was not that close to getting a nuclear weapon. They're misleading the public on it. What they were is they had enriched uranium past civilian needs, but they would need to enrich it much further to get to military grade uranium. And even if they had done that, which would be the 2-week mark, it would take them months to get to the place where North Korea is at, which took them years to weaponize that, put it in a bomb, and then even then go from that to a weapon that can reach an intercontinental ballistic missile, Lord, ICBM kind of weapon. As of now, and this is the part where I'm going to defend Trump a little bit, on the good aspects of this invasion is one, it really is dismantling a large U.S. adversary, which if you're pro or against America, interventionism is another topic, but it provides us the opportunity to refocus the military apparatus, the military muscle.
Apparatus. Got him.
The military muscle on China, which a lot of the current administration and even the previous administration were concerned and are focusing on due to China's increased military movement in the Pacific, namely against Taiwan. I'm sure you may have seen some articles regarding the Chinese building up different islands. Taking out Iran now could potentially free us in the event of a Taiwan invasion in the future to help assist Taiwan in that manner if we end up going to war with China, where we're starting to reach, especially in a lot of these spaces, we're starting to reach that whole, well, we're inevitably going to go to war with China like we were inevitably going to go to war with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Excuse me. I'm not fully on board with that narrative because I think too many people are war hawkish about China to the point of putting blinders on to anything else that might deter China from potential invasion of Taiwan. And even if that were the case, and I would take Trump's plan to focus our assets here so we can move them to China later, it's still horseshit because he has destroyed most of our international alliances and caused a lot of countries like Canada to become more reliant on China for economic means. So a bit of the right hand punching the shit out of the left hand because we want Greenland for some fuck-ass reason. And it's again, he's dumb as shit, so even trying to give him credit on something is difficult. So there is also glad I wrote this down. Iran has been providing Russia, like obviously I'm a big supporter of of Ukraine during their current conflict. Iran has been providing Russia with a lot. drones, munitions, other things, as Russia has been struggling to make ends meet in the Ukrainian conflict. Providing any kind of leverage there really does help limit Russia's ability to attack Ukraine. On the other note, and this is, I know you saw during 2024, there were like Tim Pool and everybody was really big about making sure that Russia was our friend and not our apparent adversary.
And why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am?
We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
Russia has been attacked or providing Iran with intelligence, has been providing with Iran with like logistical support, and we know this is happening, but it is not the first time in recent years that Russia has done this. And I keep reminding a lot of my friends in the military, back in 2020, Russia was actually paying the Taliban in Afghanistan to attack American troops. They were given bounties. Yeah.
I remember that story, yeah.
It still angers me because Trump has been the entire time like, actually, no, we should just let Russia back into the G7. And it really did piss me off. But it's important to note that Trump allowing, and there's been a lot of things he's done from not in pursuing sanctions back there in his first term, but Trump allowing Russia to get away with a lot. Long story short, when Congress passed sanctions in 2017 to punish Russia for the 2016 interference, the Trump administration waited to the last possible minute to enact those sanctions. And there is some evidence to support that they may have allowed Russians to move around money to avoid some of the harsher parts of the sanctions. It's one of those things that never got talked about enough, and I feel very weird about it.
I'm sure it'll come out 10 years later, and then Trump will already be dead at that point.
God, oh man. So the Iran conflict now can provide some different levels of support that people may not be directly considering whenever we're, again, I am not a supporter of this conflict, but some good that might come out of it in certain ways. Obviously, what Trump is doing is, and as I'm sure you've seen with everything in his freaking policies, is he's doing it for the freaking Twitter bit. Senator Kelly from Arizona, who is a former U.S. Navy officer, was getting in trouble with the Secretary of Defense. I'm not calling him the Secretary of War. I fucking hate that. Because he was, essentially, he told troops, don't disobey.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading this out. They have said, thank you, President Trump. I have said, you're welcome.
Yeah, that likely never happened.
They are no longer the bully of the Middle East. They are instead the loser of the Middle East and will be for many decades. Oh, God, he's so like unintentionally funny sometimes. It sucks that I hate him. He'd be such a good entertainer.
He was a good entertainer, in fairness. Like, before he got too involved into politics, he was hilarious on WWE. Like, everybody did like him in that regard. I can't argue with the fact that the man is funny on camera, but so is freaking Ronald McDonald. I don't want him leading the goddamn United States. This is, if you've seen, Iran has kind of escalated, de-escalated in the same way, where what they're doing, shortest way I can put it, they can't engage the United States or Israel in a full-on military conflict. They're going to lose. They know they're going to lose. So they're doing what we have learned that a lot of these areas and these groups are going to do for the last 30 years is they're having what's called an asymmetrical type of warfare. Their goal was to make it economically hurt, so that way the United States would feel more pressure to stop the war in general. Oil prices going up are a direct result of that. Failures of the Trump administration are the fact that they, for some reason, I guess, decided that, oh, actually, it doesn't matter that they're going to escalate. All of our civilians, all the American citizens in the Middle East, whatever, we're not going to help them get out. They should have started evacuating those people sooner. You saw that the British government evacuated all of their diplomatic teams in Iran prior to the U.S. invasion. And this is also how we know that this invasion was inevitable, because you saw the same things happening in Ukraine prior to the Russian invasion. Once the U.S. was certain that the Russian invasion was going to happen, the U.S. and its allies evacuated all of its diplomatic personnel to avoid escalation. So you've seen that the Trump administration kind of failed to do that in certain areas. They also, and this one I need to find more written documentation because I saw it on a news report. But what they did was they said, hey, we can't get you out of here. Sorry, it's too late. And then when they got backlash, they're like, actually, no, here's a way to get charter flights to get out of the area, which probably wouldn't have happened if they had better prepared and thought about what they were going to do, which raises the other red flag that I'm going to make sure you're aware of, is the fact that this is so clearly not planned for any long-term strategy. The problem with Iraq, and I will scream this to the day I die, the military mission was a complete success. Kicked ass and defeated the Iraqi military, very little issue, in like a matter of a month or two. Same thing with Afghanistan.
Operation Mission Accomplished. I remember. We were on the boat.
But the problem is the political mission afterwards was completely up in the air because they did not have one. The Bush administration was a absolute failure for that. This is the same thing, but 1,000 times worse, because the Bush administration fully intended to collapse the entire government of Iraq. Trump has just said we're going for regime change. And you cannot do that on a pure air campaign. So it is whatever he's planning or whatever the Department of Defense is planning, it's so very clear that they don't have one. But what they'll do, and they've done this for everything, and they have in politics for like the last 6, 7, 8, 10 years, is, oh, everything's under control, we're doing a 4D chess, and then whatever the solution ends up being, that was actually the plan all along.
Yeah.
The problem is that obviously when you're dealing with a fucking war, that's kind of a bad idea. The Allies during World War II had a very strict plan of what they were going to do to rebuild Europe following the end of the war. U.S., same idea in Japan. This is historically stupid. It's so fucking bad. One of the things I haven't mentioned in there that I meant to earlier is Iran has also kind of done this Twitter diplomacy, this Twitter politicking, whatever you want to call it, where they will do an attack over the last few years that doesn't secure them any actual wins, but it's good for the morale, or it's good for Twitter. So they just say, okay, yeah, we did it, and then nothing happens. And I'm going to go back here because I need to repeat this. During 2024, Iran launched a couple different attacks after Israel launched an attack against them. These were all super publicized in the news because, missiles go boom, boom, but nothing really happened. There was barely any injuries from them. I don't think Israel lost anybody. And part of that was actually good diplomacy on the Biden administration's part, because when Iran would warn some of its groups or satellites in the adjoining countries like Iraq occasionally, the Iraq would share intelligence with the U.S. and Israel, which was, just for context, is a historical precedent, considering even Saudi Arabia still hated Israel and still does in a certain extent even till now. In fact, before the Hamas attack on October 7th, the Biden administration was actually very close to getting most of those countries in the area to normalize relations with Israel. But Iran told Hamas to attack Israel in order to destabilize the region, which is, again, like we'll say, as you said earlier, not a great country, especially for peace in the area or their own country. I have a personal conspiracy. I have no proof for this, so this is purely a formally
vibes-based analysis.
Yeah. The October 7th attack, which, if you remember that at all, I have a feeling that Russia helped or wanted that attack to happen and may have actually encouraged Iran to do it. And
I'd believe it if it would divert attention and resources from the Ukraine-Russia stuff. Like, it kind of did in a lot of ways. So.
It definitely did. It even diverted media attention, which Russia considers as a big win. So any way for the U.S. to get stuck in another quagmire is going to make them happy. So Russia is ecstatic about this, because if Trump doubles down, which it sounds like he's going to do, and starts to push boots on the ground, then we're stuck with, and I cannot express this enough, 1,000 times worse than Iraq or Afghanistan ever were. it's gonna be bad. Which leads me to our our leadership at the time. How much do you know about Hexeth? I've been talking too much, and I don't have much more of your time.
Too much. It's fine. I like taking a backseat to my normal role and kind of listening to someone who knows more than I do. But yeah, I know a lot about Hexeth. I mean, I know he's an alcoholic. He's very cringe, and these are the two most important stuff. He's a media figure insofar as like Trump keeps hiring these unqualified morons to be in the administration, like Bongino and Patel, and Hexeth is one of them. Incredibly cringe insofar as talking about FAFO and Department of War now, and I don't know if you saw his video where he pretends to bench 315, which is clearly not 315. Just like this weird, like masculine, fashy posturing. And if you read his book, I haven't read all of it. I've just read little excerpts. Oh God, what is it called? Is it? Let me look this up because I want to get it right. But let's see. Pete Hegseth book. Pete Hegseth book is called American Crusade, of course.
Yeah.
It is fucking insane. Like just the weird Christian nationalist take that he wants to take this countries in, and I'm very scared that this person has any power, let alone the Secretary of Defense. But yeah, I could do a whole deep dive on him. He's a terrible person to have in power. But
he is. Yes. No, you're 100% right. I'm actually glad you know a little bit about him. Are you familiar? Before he became more of a household name, even on Fox News, he had multiple political advocacy groups that he was put in charge of and joined that he had to be physically removed from because they would lose money randomly, and he would be accused of spending that money on personal.
I did not know he had embezzlement scandals, but that checks.
Yeah. Hilarious considering Doge's whole mission was to stop us from wasting money, and friggin' Petey here.
So stop everyone but the administration from wasting money. So all the other people, they can waste money all they want, but our people are allowed to waste money. I think that was the message they sent.
So this one, again, I try not to do my opinion on too many things. I like to base it on facts a little bit. But when you look at, because I know a lot of Americans are concerned about what is the military thinking. Like there is this escalation with troops on the streets. There's this escalation because Hexeth and Trump have fired. Lord, I'm going to cut this for time, but we could also talk about the fact that you see that we bombed a school by accident.
I did see that. Although, given fog of war stuff, I still am not 100% sure what happened. But I'm sure it'll come out later that we did it. Or I wouldn't be surprised if we did.
A lot of the different, long story short, it was us. We fucked up. There is almost zero evidence that we didn't. I was also, because of fog of war, waiting because of, I got a little bit, I don't want to say heated, but there was information that came out during Israel and Hamas's attacks that wasn't always accurate. We do take a little bit too much of Hamas's media apparatus, or even Iran's media apparatus, as factual, and that shouldn't happen. And that's somewhat of a problem on the left as well, mostly on the left, I would say, where Hamas will say Israel just bombed a hospital. And again, I do not like Israel. I am not a fan of Israel or Netanyahu because he's a fascist dick. But a lot of times is that some of those, if you look at the facts, the information on the ground, there were instances of accusations against Israel when it was actually Hamas fucking up a missile strike. The specific example was that there was a school or a hospital that was hit by a missile. It was immediately reported that it was Israel, but it ended up being not Hamas, but a Hamas-backed group that fired a missile that malfunctioned and then crashed into this, killing civilians.
Right, I remember. And it's like, yeah, you don't have to make stuff up to make Israel look bad. They do enough bad. And so, like, yeah, this like kind of immediate reporting and people just accepting, well, this thing is bad, so I accept it, happens a lot. I see even on the left, considering we're supposed to be the not fake news group. But yeah, it can happen.
Hassan Piker is the worst at this. And it's one of the reasons I have never, ever liked him. He does it with...
What do you mean? He read it on Twitter once. It's definitely true.
He does it with that. He does it with Ukraine. He does it with China, where he'll take the anti-American narrative as just a fact without any type of nuance.
Yeah.
God, he's the worst. But what happened in this instance, it undoubtedly was the U.S. Multiple news agents, because I was actually just reading this up before we did this because I wanted to know for certain. multiple news agencies have verified is that the type of missile used and the location it was used was undoubtedly the United States, possibly Israel, but Israel doesn't use the type of missile that hit the school. Accidents happen, yeah, and I'm of the opinion that while the U.S. military does its best on the most part, no matter who's in charge, to avoid unnecessary casualties, occasionally does happen. Now, I'm not defending our actions, but I'm just trying to provide explanation. God, I'm going to get in so much fucking trouble one of these days, I swear. They're going to come for me. But Pete Hegseth, who I do not like, did specifically say we're looking into that and we're trying to verify it, which is the politically correct way to do it. And on Air Force One, Trump made the bullshit statement as, oh, that was Iran. Iran actually did that. And when they were asking for more, Hegseth was like, we're looking into it, we'll provide information, but only Iran is the one that targets civilian infrastructure. Because Trump can never be trusted with anything at all and lies like he freaking breathes. So that's...
Did you pick the worst photo? He looks so annoying and douchey in this. I'm sorry to
Oh, that's
interrupt,
the
but,
exact
every
photo
time
I...
I'm just looking at the screen, I'm just like, ah.
That's the exact reason I picked that photo, man. He's a freaking douche. Yeah.
Did you know that also America? Like, yeah, we get it, dude. It's so embarrassing.
So when I say like I don't have like a poll to show you how much the military apparatus or the troops support Trump or Hegseth, based on my experience, where in 2017 I was fairly young, I had just gotten in when Trump got into office. So many different airmen that I was served with would not shut up about it. His first Secretary of Defense was a guy named General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis. He was a guy that I actually quite liked. I have a lot of respect for him. Mattis resigned from Trump's military because of what Trump, or not from Trump's military, as Trump's Secretary of Defense, because of what Trump did to the Kurds with that whole Turkey situation, if you remember that at all. I'm not sure if you do, it was a while back.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So Mattis resigned because of that, and he actually came out a little bit against Trump, especially at the whole January 6th thing in 2020. I have nothing but respect for Mattis, but there's a reason nobody in Trump's first term is back here again. When Mattis was, there was a rumor in 2016 that Mattis might be Trump's VP pick. I had so many people scream and elate for joy because Mad Dog's gonna run the country, shit like that. And to show you the amount of vitriol that people had, not vitriol, that might be the wrong word, but the amount of excitement some people had for Trump and what Trump would do for the military. In 2024 and 2025, none of that exists. It is crickets. I'm not saying like people don't say individual things are good or talk about them. Oh yeah, I like it, but like it is complete night and day to what it was in 2017. A lot of the, especially the younger kids, because we saw Gen Z went for Republicans more in this last election than the previous ones. A lot of them have reached out to me going, Sergeant Moore, holy shit, you might have been right about a couple of things. In fact, I know you probably haven't because, again, busy guy, but a lot of the Yap sessions that I have are with some of those folks who formerly supported Trump or even voted for Trump that are now even more radicalized than I think I am. And I'm trying to be like, guys, I understand. I know you're feeling this way. Just don't fuck up your careers and just be patient. The part of that is because people like Hegseth are fucking ridiculous. Hegseth has cared more about, the military has pushed this idea of shaving policies, which basically you can't have a beard in the military, but there are exceptions. So we stop, if you have razor burns, which are very common amongst black men, they'll give you... I was
going to say, yeah, there was some like discriminatory type policies towards black people, whether intentional or not, that have been brought to my attention.
Yeah, it's bad, and it doesn't do anything. What Hegseth has done is he's taken... Are you familiar with broken window theory when it comes to criminal justice?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has done that and applied it to the military, which is the exact wrong thing that anybody who knows shit about active duty should be advocating for. I don't give a fuck how shiny my boots are. I give a fuck about, for lack of a better term, how well you can shoot a goddamn gun. But he is more concerned about, the Department of Defense has pushed more information about shaving waivers than they have for any other institutional thing. I think the biggest change we had was the fact that we weren't doing any more celebrations for like Black History Month or any of these other historical months or things. which everybody kind of just selectively shrugged and was like, all right, okay. It is an asinine waste of time. They have not made any adequate change to how the training works, which everyone's so excited because a lot of the time is taken away from the troops when they have to do what we feel is kind of bullshit training, like a computer-based training and all that. And it's not changed. It's still there. They have made no discernible change when it comes to the average military member's work on the ground in the military. But they claim that they fixed everything, that they're doing everything that they can, and it's so innocuous when you see some of the lies that they put out online. Like, I'll try to watch Hexet's videos that get like 30 views on YouTube, and I'm like, this is very clearly not what was happening, and you're blowing, okay, what? It becomes repetitive. But Hexeth has pretty much lost any semblance of credibility after that whole signal scandal at the start of the term, which was...
Well, technically, he didn't leak them. Technically, he just oversaw the leaks.
Well, no, that was the thing. He is the one that leaked it. Whoever, because somebody added the dude to the chat, the journalist, and Hexeth was the one that sent the actual information regarding the pilots. So he's like...
Right.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the one who invited the journalist, my understanding, right?
No, but the information he shared...
He just didn't realize that they invited the journalist to their group chat.
The problem is the information he shared should not have been sent in that chat.
Yes.
Period.
He shouldn't be using Signal for that. Yeah.
And it would have left anybody else in trouble. We get, every day we go to work, and there's a... We all use Signal to talk because it's better than just regular text message or a Facebook group chat. And every single time we're like, do not post this in the chat because it's important. We don't let this is OPSEC, operational
Wait, are you
security.
saying the people that test the lowest in the ASFAB group know better than Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War?
To give... Pete Hegseth and I have the same amount of military experience. He was in for, I think, probably about 10 years. Yeah, we have the same about goddamn experience. Now, he was an officer.
Yeah, but do you have a blazer with the American flag inside of it?
You don't know what's in that closet. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't think so.
So he is hilariously awful at this job. He's an okay communicator on certain things, but what he says is a whole lot of bullshit. That speech he did with those generals, I think last year, it was a lot of fucking nothing. Hey, don't be fat and shave your goddamn beard. That's what it was. And that's all they focused on. But
also pledged loyalty to Trump, essentially, which is why a few of them resigned afterwards.
I think a couple have resigned. I'll say I still trust, even there are some red flags in the military brass, I still trust our military leadership on a lot of accounts because the majority of them know and are career military officers. And they seen time and time again on different things. You'd be surprised how many folks, especially ones you wouldn't actually consider, might actually be a bit more liberal than you would give them credit for. Hegseth has about as much experience as I do, and I should not be the Secretary of Defense. He has so little actual experience after he got out of the military as well. It's depressing how fucked he is at his job. And that's why, again, I sit down there, like in 2017, the morale was higher when General Mattis was the Secretary of Defense. And you see now a lot of these, there is not nearly as much excited support for Trump and the Department of Defense as there was in his first term. There's been a very drastic change. You'll see some guys in the military are still kind of hoorah. Yeah, let's go to war with Iran. I don't care. I signed up to go to war. A lot of opinions about that, but there are still quite, I'd say, a sizable portion that are against this operation, although they obviously can't say it, and I'm never going to put names. Are not understanding or supporting what's going on right now. When you compare that to, even though Iraq was obviously a mistake, the Bush administration was at least able to put a narrative out after 9/11 to reaffirm the need for the United States to engage in this war. The fact that they even fucking tried to do that is not showing good for us.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm almost to the end of this. So what have you seen, because obviously we talked a little bit about it being an air campaign, Do you think it's going to end up being boots on the ground, like a full-on invasion?
I have no idea. If you were to ask me, are we going to invade Iran in the second Trump term, I wouldn't have like confidently said yes. So I don't know. Although it is, I mean, the fact that Carolyn Levitt is like not immediately saying no to we might do a draft is leading me more towards yes, because why would you not say obviously no unless the answer was maybe we might do this? You know, I don't know.
The fear of a draft is obviously very prevalent. The military will. It's going to be very unlikely we ever actually do a draft, even in the worst case scenario of Iran or China escalating. If this actually does end up being full scale World War III, I still think it's unlikely we'll end up in a draft until the last possible moment, and that's like at that point it's going to be too late. The military escalation. The reason being is that, do you know why we don't have a draft anymore? Because we had one up until like the end of the 70s. I think the 80s actually.
Well, Vietnam was the last war we had one, really, right? But
Yes.
We still have selective service. They just haven't turned it on, right? Like
Yeah.
we all signed up for the draft. They just haven't said, all right, we're calling your margin call, guys. You're in.
Yeah, so we also signed up for the selective service, but do you know why because we did, I think, after Vietnam, when did the U.S. end the draft? I'm going to double check myself, because I think it was actually after Vietnam, ended the draft in 73, and we switched to, because we had done it from 48 to 73 as well, even when we weren't at war with Korea or Vietnam. And the reason being is because the mentality at the time, even pre-World War II, was that a larger military was superior in all ways. But what we saw was after World War II that having a conscripted force was not necessarily always effective. Vietnam, prime example, you had a lot of troops that didn't want to be over there, so they would self-sabotage or sabotage in other ways and would not perform like they should. A key statistic to look at this would be the amount of soldiers who fired a weapon on like D-Day compared to where it's at today. And it's not just because like on D-Day they all got shot first and died. It was because at certain points, some soldiers just don't shoot. Part of that is training. They went from like circle targets to an actual humanoid looking target to instinctualize the, hey, shoot first, ask questions, right? Glossing over that entirely too much. But what happened was we found that a volunteer force was immensely more effective and motivated for a conflict than a all conscripted force. Yep. So if we start pulling in people who don't want to go die in a war in Iran, as that Marine in Congress said the other day, like no one wants to die in a war for Israel, it's unlikely we're going to reach that far. I don't know why Caroline Levitt would say, oh, we're going to keep all options on the table. It is probably the ambiguous, I don't want to confirm nor deny anything that the administration constantly does. I am not concerned.
Well, they wouldn't want to be seen as the administration that goes back on their word, right? Like that would be crazy. So they want to make sure they're hedging their bets.
So until we see mobilization of more ground troops, I am not concerned about a full-scale foot invasion. That being said, if Trump is adamant about regime change, there has to be some type of ground invasion. If you look online,
we can't do it by plane. We can't say, look, if you don't put the guy we want in, we're going to bomb you from a plane.
This is the thing.
We'll keep airdropping in new Shaws until one sticks. You know,
everyone's like, oh, we kicked ass in Venezuela, and while the Venezuela military operation logistically was phenomenal, it failed to enact any meaningful change on the ground. And we've completely stopped talking about it. And it sucks is because in about 2 or 3 weeks, there's a chance that we just tune the narrative out of Iran too. That's how our media cycle works. But the issue is when we invade these countries, if there's no infrastructure put into place when the government falls, it's going to turn into Iraq 2.0, which led to ISIS and these other terrorist groups popping up. Or like in Libya, which is only going to worsen the refugee crisis that they keep trying to say, we don't want no damn refugees here, which is going, or in Europe
Stop
as
making
well.
them then.
Again, I fully believe there's an avenue where the military can depose the current government, but because they're not doing it with any type of plan, just like they did in Iraq, it's going to lead to inevitable failure. And what they're doing now is only going to strengthen the current government in Iran. Because you've heard of the rally around the flag effect, correct?
No.
So the rally around the flag effect is essentially...
Wait, before you tell me,
Yes.
is this like in Warhammer, where one of the Astartes guys gets his flag and he's on like a pile of bodies and they're all shooting and it's like, oh, like you literally give up potential firepower and advantage just so you can get everyone to be moralized by the flag and rallied by the flag? Is that how that works?
Literally no, but actually yes.
Yes, but actually no.
The rally around the flag effect is this tendency for in any type of conflict for people to rally around the leader or the base, the nation, or the flag. And this happens all the time during war. Even Iraq, perfect example. Under Bush, right after 9/11, he shot up to about 90% approval rate. And you saw that down, and you saw Democrats or liberals even rally around Bush. Here, you're not seeing nearly as much of that because of how jaded the American public is after the Iraq War. But in Iran, where a lot of the media is controlled by them, it's a lot more difficult for them to have any type of outside source for information. And so all they're going to see is, like, I think just today we saw that Israel strike on that Iranian oil facility that caused hellish imagery to come out.
And it's not just imagery. I mean, like, all the pollutants that are going into the air. It's going to cause acid rain and carcinogens, and you're going to hear about this, like the downstream effects of this for decades, probably.
Even the people who would have otherwise opposed the current government, like that is now the government that has technically provided them any type of protection. The fact that we can bomb a school, and you see this consistently throughout the last 30 years during the war on terror, is that as the United States thinks that it can just go and bomb everything, and Hegseth has been the worst at this because he has advocated for us to have lessened rules of engagement. What you do is you radicalize a people against you, and they will rally around whatever flag is technically protecting them. So it's the fact that they're doing this, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Netanyahu doesn't give a shit because Netanyahu will just be protected by Republicans and Democrats in any way, shape, or form so that he can just stay out of jail. If you're familiar with his whole history in the last 10 or so years. But in Iran, what they're doing, it is going to end up hurting us. And if it does become an invasion, you're going to have an asymmetrical warfare and an occupation, a counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency was how the U.S. military was focused pretty much since 2001 after 9/11, where it was, instead of dealing with, say, a near-peer power like Russia or China, we were focused on more smaller-scale military operations to take down bin Laden, for example, right? Like there wasn't a giant naval carrier group going after bin Laden. It was a couple of guys in helicopters. That has kind of bit us in the ass a little bit, but if we go to this kind of attack, we're going to have to go back into that aspect of we now need to fight a counterinsurgency, where even the people that were previously maybe pro-American, it doesn't matter how much they may have hated the government, the American occupation is not going to go well.
In the math of counterinsurgency, 10 minus 2 equals 20.
We saw that during Iraq because even though there was wide support, and I always remind people of this, if you look at the statistics, even in the U.S., of people who supported the Iraq war, and then 5 or 6 years later, when they said, did you support the Iraq war during the invasion? You had people say, oh, no, I didn't support it, even though they did. And the disparity between that is what Republicans are doing now. Oh, we wanted peace, but actually, no, it's good that he's bombing Iran. And of the folks that I've seen online who are defending this action have done it in the most disingenuous bullshit kind of way. Because again, and if you ever want,
you see the Dave Rubin clip on it where he's like, it's because he hates war so much that he has to start one to end all future wars.
This seems to me to be the war to end all wars. I know that's like bumper stickery and whatever.
War is peace.
War is peace.
World War I was called the war to end all wars, and it clearly didn't. And any idiot
called that one early.
Any idiot who thinks that, oh, it'll be a quick war, deserves to go to the grave of every single general politician who has said that for the history of humanity in mechanized warfare. It is the mission accomplished poster, just as you said earlier in regards to Iraq.
Yeah.
Do you have any random questions, by the way? Because I really wanted to get your feedback in regards to like all of this.
Yeah, I mean, like, so obviously this seems to be like a posture, and like, well, all right. Let me start from where I was initially going to start, which was, to what extent do you think Rubio is telling the truth, or how accurate is he when he says Israel was going to do this with or without us, and so they kind of forced our hand with the preemptive strike so that we wouldn't take as big of a hit?
It's horseshit.
Do you think that's true?
It's absolute horseshit. Israel has in the past engaged, as I said before, in 2024, they've attacked Iranian targets, and Iran responded with missiles. If Israel, like earlier this year, or last year, excuse me, we bombed Iran, and then they responded with a couple of missiles. If Israel had done another series of even larger attacks, Iran would have responded and then kept their response to a minimum because they didn't want to risk escalation to the United States. Because they know if they risk escalation to the United States, they are going to lose. They know it is purely a matter of making the war so bad to win that the U.S. just says it's not worth it. In the same way that the Vietnamese did during the Vietnam War. Or on a super random scale, the way that Mexican cartels will avoid killing American tourists because they don't want to incur the wrath of a retaliation by the U.S.
You heard it here, folks. You're safe in Mexico. Go more often.
No, that's not. That is like that. A few years ago, there was a American tourist couple that was murdered by a cartel member, and the cartels actually left their bodies, not the American citizens, but the people that killed them, on the border of the Rio Grande with like their heads cut off, being like, here you go. We
didn't do it.
Yeah. It's the same way, because they do know if they piss off the United States too much, even a freaking Bernie Sanders type is probably going to authorize force. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. So that was just a pretense of like, oh, we didn't have a choice. Like, but I think even still makes them look worse, because it's like, so what you're saying is Israel can dictate your military policy by just saying, hey, like, we're going to do this and you're going to face consequences if you don't act. But even if that's not true, like, that still looks bad if you're admitting that's the reason.
The desire, because I think that there is a lot of talk online, especially about how this is the last chance Israel has to take out Iran, because they've wanted to do this for decades. And that much is for certain, especially if you see this new generation just cannot stand Israel. Where now, apparently, I'm on the same side as Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and how they're covering Israel, and that is not a thing I like to say.
Yeah, you're allowed to hate Israel without going full anti-Semite, Tucker or Candace, so it is hard when people lump those things together.
No, I agree. What other questions do you have, though?
So, basically, it sounds to me like we're doing this, one, for the resources, but two, because this, like, Israel is a satellite of us in certain aspects, and people always say, like, oh, if Israel's our greatest ally, why don't we have, American bases there? And the answer is because Israel is our American base, and, we want that kind of influence over the Middle East. Like, is the ultimate goal of this, we say regime change, we say this, it's basically, what you were saying earlier. Israel knows that they will not be able to act with impunity if Iran becomes a more threatening power, especially with nuclear weapons. And so it's just, hey, yeah, we want to be able to keep doing whatever the fuck we want, and it's nice to have countries that won't oppose us there. Is that the ultimate, like, kind of boiled down essentially of why we're doing this, or is it? Yeah,
it boils down to that. And I think a large portion is that Netanyahu, even outside of his horrible war crimes, is being charged and accused of crimes in Israel. And the only reason that he has avoided jail is because the courts cannot take him if he's prime minister. Which is him. That's the reason that I personally believe, especially because he has been so clearly friends with Donald Trump and believe that Donald Trump would be a better ally to him than Joe Biden or Kamala Harris was. Barack Obama. That I always get those two confused. They look nothing alike. It freaks me out. But the reason is because he knew Trump would be more willing to sign off on this. Joe Biden actually sanctioned certain Israeli groups and military units for crimes that they were committing in Gaza. Joe Biden dropped food, military aid, or not military, excuse me, via military means into Gaza to help alleviate the famine going on. Joe Biden had the U.S. military build a whole port to try to bring in more aid when Israel refused to end the blockade. Trump, on the other hand, wants to pave over it and build a freaking hotel, and is literally
Gaza #1. I remember the song.
That song has been stuck in my head so long, and I hate it. But Netanyahu is Trump's bitch, Trump is Netanyahu's bitch, and that much has been very apparent for a very long time, especially with this alignment amongst the evangelical community and voter base with the Israeli community. It's the reason that Netanyahu, I think he did an interview a while back about how important, and this is a traditional Jewish man, mind you, how important it is that Christians visit Israel as it relates to Jesus Christ, even though if he's properly Jewish, he shouldn't really be believing in Jesus Christ at all. It's a weird type of propaganda to push out, unless you're just trying to rally up a young base of conservative men to your cause.
The study of the idea of like the return of Jesus Christ and how the Jews need to be in Israel for this to happen.
Yes,
that whole death.
I was avoiding bringing that up. It's a evangelical belief that has. I don't know how widespread it is. I've seen a lot of reporting on it.
Widespread enough in our government, unfortunately. When you'll see people say nothing is more important than Israel.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are they saying that? Is it because some weird
they believe
Jewish
in
influence over the world? It's like, no, they're saying it because they truly believe that for their religion to come true, the Jews have to be in Israel.
Yeah, it's the prophecy of Revelations, where essentially the first step to Jesus' return to earth and Revelations coming up is the return of the chosen people, the Israelites, the Jewish people, to Israel. That is, I am well aware of that theory. I try to avoid talking about it because of how crazy it makes people sound to go into that aspect. But I have brought that up with some of my troops before because it's unavoidable in its influence, especially with these different religious groups. I think you saw recently there was a report is that some military troops have had their military commanders mention that Trump was brought here by God to release Armageddon.
Yeah.
That's the result of that.
One more slide.
I did have one more slide, but I covered all the points in here, except for the Yemen raid during 2017. If you get time later on, I highly recommend you look up the first mission that Trump allowed in his first term, which was a raid in Yemen. It was somewhat comparable to Benghazi in the fact that it was clearly a fuck-up by the military. It resulted in the deaths of several service members, and no real asset was gained. And it was very quietly kind of forgotten about in the media. The spouse of one of the, or not the spouse, but the father of one of the soldiers brought up a very good point that I still advocate for, is the fact that Trump's remarks about the Islamic community were not unnoticed in different areas in the Middle East. And what happened is when this raid when it occurred, is the civilians who may have been more sympathetic to an American cause were now less sympathetic because they didn't like old mean Donnie and reported the military going into the area. So they reported that to the officials or the terrorist groups that we were attacking, and they were more put on aware. It's the reason that while Hegseth says we need less rules of engagement, there is the goal of counterinsurgency is to make friends in these areas. There's a specific term, I'm forgetting about it, to make friends in these areas so that way you have the support of the locals so you're not dealing with literally everybody trying to kill you.
Yeah. Checks out.
And then,
I found it. It's eschatology. Eschatology. That's got to be how you pronounce it, right? Eschatology. Yeah, so it's like the study of the end times, and so they got all these eschatologists who are like the Charlie Kirks. Actually, I don't know if Charlie Kirk was one of them, but I know he talked about it with the idea that Israel's the only thing that matters because ultimately anything could happen in this country, but what matters is the return of Jesus Christ, and therefore we have to support Israel and make sure the Jews remain there. And this is like definitely driving a lot of our foreign policy, because a lot of these people are these vehement religious figures that are in power, and they like will just support bombing Iran because John McCain's ghost told them to.
Oh God, I don't think you understand how much I miss John McCain right now.
Oh yeah, you don't think? I think he would want to bomb Iran.
I think he'd want to bomb Iran, and again, it's just the fact of it still would have been better than what the current administration is doing. And I hate these people more than I can breathe. The Dick Cheney types from the 2000s over what we're currently dealing with, because while they were awful and led to a lot of pain, and I'm not defending that, you'd rather have competent and evil than stupid and evil.
I was really bad.
I guess my last question is kind of to your point on this slide, and that's like, to what extent would the nuclear deal have prevented this? Would it, like, even if they maybe skirted the rules a little bit, or we had some worries, or like, hey, they failed an audit, like, would this have? My guess, if they wanted to do this, because the nuclear pretense does seem to be bullshit. If they wanted to do what they're doing right now, they would do it anyway, and they would just find a different excuse other than the nuclear thing, right?
You're all right. Actually, it's a good point to bring up, is the fact that if the nukes were off the table, would they still do this? Yes. I mean, they found 1,001 reasons to do this. They found 1,001 reasons to go to Venezuela. The nukes are just today's excuse.
Or they'd lie about the nukes and say, oh, they're not meeting their deadlines or whatever, and so we have to invade. Like, they're breaking the rules. So
the reason I mentioned the Obama nuclear deal is just like Trump's trade deals. They caused the issue, refused to negotiate any way out of it, and now we're dealing with the consequences because they are lying and incompetent and dealing with these ramifications. And that's, I can't speculate, because I personally don't know how well the nuclear deal would have actually implemented that was allowed to go long term. I think, controversial opinion, no Democrat's going to agree with me, or liberal who knows their shit, but I believe is that one of the issues with U.S. foreign policy is that our attempts to enact sanctions on places like Cuba, which if you've seen, they're talking about going to Cuba next, on Cuba or Iran, are actually self-defeating. Because what they do is they prevent any type of economic prosperity to happen amongst a lower class of folks who would generally lead to a uprising in the government. So Cuba, prime example, because they've been so sanctioned for the last 60, 70 years, Lord, it's been a while, being unable to receive American media or information about anything has only told them, like, well, this is just how life is, so I'm going to keep doing it. You saw this
was... What you're saying is we should keep the embargo, but let them watch cool American movies so that they become Americanized.
It's not the fact that the embargo prevents them from seeing American media. It's the fact that the embargo helps strengthen the regime and saying, no, actually, you have to come to us for your information.
We're the only ones who can help you. Like, that does make sense. I don't know if a lot of liberals would. I mean, that just is intuitive to me on its face. I'm not sure to the extent that it would help.
Let's say Democrats, because even the sanctions against North Korea were pushed by Barack Obama and the Democratic establishment. But the reason I think that, to always provide facts to back up my insanity, is the fact that Russia, the Soviet Union broke down partially because they allowed more American business and information, which told that the Soviets, like, oh, what we've been experiencing for the last generation is complete falsehood. One of the famous examples, there was an American movie where they showed it in not the Kremlin, but in Moscow, and you had a bunch of Soviets who were like, do all Americans own cars? What is happening? And because Moscow's like, oh yeah, this movie will show the decollement of the West, and then all the Russians were like, why do they all own cars? None of us own cars. And that's kind of part of the thing that
Decadence. Tell me more about this so-called American decadence. Sounds
Gorbachev, when he went to the United States for a diplomatic mission, stopped randomly at a grocery store. And there's a famous picture of this, actually, where he looks completely defeated. because he knows for a fact that there's no way the U.S. government managed to fake this grocery store like his government would have.
Oh, is this when he's in the frozen food aisle and he's like, "Oh, there's so many different types of pizza. Like, maybe West is not so bad."
Literally, he was like, "Holy shit, we are actually behind." It reinforced the fact that like their system was not working. Famously, you can see an example of like the opposite part of this if you've seen the James Franco movie, the Dictator.
The Dictator, yeah, where they had like the fake grocery store, made a cardboard cutouts and all that.
Exactly. Any other random questions?
No, I mean that's it. That actually this was very helpful in terms of I feel very stupid on the Iran conflict, and this helped get me up to speed, or at least make me less uninformed than I was before.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to help me out on this. No, of course, thank you for your time, bud. This really did help me out. Anything else you'd like to add on this? I'll add this to the end when I end up editing it.
Iran, if you're listening, Donald Trump will be at the following coordinate. No, nothing else to add.
Oh, he's at Mar-a-Lago every day. They don't need a freaking.
Oh,
Russian
actually, wait, yeah. This is my final question. How much of this is like a personal grievance because Iran threatened to assassinate him like a year or so ago? Or is that just kind of like fluff?
I really don't think that's any. They've never mentioned that. He's never brought it up. You see a lot of Magites talk about it on Twitter occasionally.
Yeah.
He wasn't even thinking about that, because if Iran tried to assassinate him, then that ruins the idea of it being a radical left democratic takeover, right? That's the excuse they use to reinforce the enemy within aspect rather than this whole Iran aspect.
Interesting. Yeah, it's crazy. As a narcissistic as he is, you would think he would bring out like the video they made of like the drone killing him or whatever. They just haven't done that at all. But
no.
Yeah, that makes sense. They don't want to undermine the fact that it's a crazy Islamist leftist regime, which is like several contradictory things in there. But yeah.
Any questions regarding like how the average troop or military guy might be perceiving this sort of thing? I know do you have any other?
I mean, you can just tell me. Yeah, like what is the average? Because you kind of led with that. Like, what's the average perception of the American voter? But yeah, how the troops feeling? Are they like, wow, we sure are getting a lot of lobster and ice cream. What's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of pissed off anger. There really is. I know, again, a lot of troops who I've spoken to who even voted for Trump in 2020 or 2024 do not want to go die in a war for Israel.
Well, yeah, I assume they voted for him, with the pretense that he's telling the truth about no new wars. So
there is definitely a sizable number who would be totally okay and kind of just, I don't want to say brainwashed, but kind of, I hate using the term, but as I've gotten older, I've noticed it more and more. Like
it's cultish, it's brainwashed.
Not cultish, but like NPCs who just don't bother to think about it and be like, oh yeah, go to war with Iran. That's what the president said to do. Okay. That's not a small number.
I just do what it says on the can.
Yeah. It's not a small number, but that's why that I personally, despite the fact that I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a big podcast guy. I have been trying to do this for the sheer fact is I am concerned about a lot of those kids, a lot of those guys that I served with, just walking into those situations where now we're in a shitty sandbox at a war that we shouldn't have been in because our political leaders are beholden to the freaking fascist that is in charge of Israel. And it's something I think more and more Americans are hopefully waking up to, even if they are the crazy isolationist MAGA types.
I don't know if you saw, there was a recent polls that come out where it's like 67% of
6-7.
Like Gen Z is like pretty anti. It's pretty anti-Jew, not just Zionism, which is it's getting a little scary. How like I think it's incumbent upon creators and influencers to like be able to distinguish between hey, Israel's bad and hey, Jews are bad.
To be perfectly clear,
because otherwise they're going to keep hiding behind the anti-Semitism defense.
To be perfectly clear, this is not an attack on Judaism as a religion or the people, purely the state of Israel. But
to be perfectly clear, Jew.
Well, you know what it is though, because as you said, it's Ben Shapiro will say leftists are hiding behind racism to prevent actual criticism. Like, oh, you can't criticize this person, that's racist, right? That's literally what Israel does in regards to, And I know you're saying
Ben Shapiro does it.
Yeah. You can't criticize Israel. It's anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic to say we can't bomb a freaking children's hospital.
Yeah.
Which is horseshit, in my opinion.
Well, prospects right now are a little up in the air, but I look forward to dying on the front lines with you, sir.
Hey, Private Soy Pill, you will be. Oh, are you cool with me using that thumbnail, by the way?
Oh yeah, that's a Soy Pill-esque thumbnail. I'm fine with that.
All right, perfect. Well, Private Soy Pill, I look forward to hearing your Foxhole playlist, and I'll share with you mine. It's a lot of Civil War music, just to warn you.
It's all baby metal.
Oh, baby metal, Lord mighty. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Soy Pill, brother. I appreciate you coming on. I guess I'll do my YouTube sign out. Like and subscribe.
I want to talk with you about a number of subjects that directly affect the future of the United States.